Hi guys, welcome back to another video. Today I'm going to be drawing Frankenstein. There's a Guillermo del Toro movie coming out pretty quickly here that's another Frankenstein movie. It has Oscar Isaac and Jacob Elordi, I don't know how to actually say his last name. And it just got me reminiscing on the character of the book, everything Frankenstein. And so I kind of want to just do a take on him. So there's also a really great artist called Bernie Wrightson who did a illustrated version of Frankenstein, and I don't remember when that was released, maybe in the 90s, and his work on it is incredible, and I'll probably post some photos of that somewhere in the video too. But yeah, it's just a pen and ink drawings, and they are just incredible. So in my mind, that's almost kind of the definitive version of Frankenstein. So I'm gonna take a little bit from him with the nose and kind of go with a more skeleton-like nose, which I think makes sense. So Frankenstein, in pop culture, the movies, he's a little more like grafted together with spare body parts and things like that. And that's not exactly how it went down in the book. In the book, he's more like modeled from clay, basically. And it's kind of supposed to be more of a parallel with God crafting Adam, and that's what the story is kind of, like I said, paralleling. But in the movies, they went a different route with like kind of electricity and some more invention type stuff. And all those themes are applicable to Frankenstein, but Frankenstein in the book is described as a very large, beautifully moving, swift character. He has long hair, but he has a horrific sort of appearance, which makes people repulsed. And, he's rejected by his maker, which is Dr. Frankenstein, and this sort of sends him on this spiraling path of vengeance against Victor Frankenstein. And obviously that sort of story comes with a lot of parallels with today, and just what isolation and rejection does to people. And I think probably more than ever, well, I don't know more than ever, but we are aware more than we have been of that a lot of people are just alone or lonely, and what that isolation does to people. Because ultimately, as humans, we are kind of community creatures. We maybe not supposed to be living in like giant societies, but we are supposed to have communities. And a lot of people don't even get that, or maybe they get it through like online means, but obviously that can be in many ways as damaging or more damaging than other things. So Frankenstein is really a story of rejection, the pain of that, and just how creation in that sense, it's responsibility of people who create to nurture that. And it's not for the faint of heart, that's for sure. And Frankenstein, Dr. Frankenstein, did not do a good job of that. He was repulsed by the kind of zombie-like creation he made, this sculpting of human tissue. And he rejected and ran away. And Frankenstein's monster was really harmed by that. And so became destructive as he pursued finding out some reasons and answers as to why. Frankenstein was written by Mary Shelley, thinking, she was 20 years old when she wrote the story. It was 1818 or so, I think. But she was only 20 years old when she wrote that, which is kind of wild to write one of the preeminent horror works when you're just that young. She was actually hanging out with Lord Byron when she wrote the story, which Lord Byron is kind of often thought of as like maybe one of the best literary writers to ever live, based on his writing style and prose. And interestingly enough, it was done in kind of a horrific year for the world. As a large volcano had gone off, so the summer, I think it was called the year without a summer, the sky was was dark, so people stayed inside and didn't have a whole lot to do. And Mary Shelley got to work and wrote Frankenstein. Pretty wild that is what came from it. So my Frankenstein I'm doing here is just kind of a head pulled back. I just kind of wanted to capture maybe some of the depressing agony of the loneliness of the character. This should come down more, I think. Drawing from this perspective is always really hard. I don't know, it's super challenging. It's partly why I wanted to draw Frankenstein this way, or Frankenstein's monster this way, is just to challenge myself here. And since I'm taking some inspiration from Bernie Wrightson, I really I want to do this more gaunt take on Frankenstein, and not kind of like the Boris Karloff precise or like exact look. And a lot of the features are pretty Boris Karloff-esque, because it's a little hard to not go with that huge jawline. Like it kind of just is, the jawline and chin is just kind of so iconic. But I'm going to take the Bernie Wrightson aspect of the nose, being just like the skull socket. And I think that, I don't know, I think that looks really cool. Frankenstein, for me, I think he was the first character I dressed up as, like, for Halloween when I was like 5 years old. My dad is a big horror person, so that meant our household had a lot of Stephen King, Clive Barker. We watched Tales from the Crypt whenever it was on, seemingly. And so yeah, my first character I remember dressing up as was Frankenstein, kind of the green colored version, which is, again, in the book, he's kind of described as having like a sallow, translucent skin. Because, yeah, Frankenstein would probably be described a lot more as like a sentient zombie look these days than, a kind of steampunky electropunk monster that he ended up being in the movies. And so since I'm going to make him more gaunt, that means I'm going to try and have indicators of more bone structure going on too, like say in the cheeks and whatnot, and specifically how our cheek stretches back towards our ear, like over here. I want to make it look like it has a very thin veneer of skin over it and not much fat padding. Like I said, Boris Karloff's look is iconic, so there's still going to be parts of that. Right now, I think it's kind of funny. He's looking a little Swamp Thing-like, which is ironic because Bernie Wrightson, the artist I was talking about, the pen and ink artist who illustrated Frankenstein, he worked on like the first Swamp Thing. So I guess probably in hindsight, right in his wheelhouse for the design of Frankenstein, because I'm noticing a lot of similarities as I cue it up here. it's hard not to think of the impact that Frankenstein has had too on just creatives in general, you know, like Edward Scissorhands is pretty much a Frankenstein story, except in that story he was loved, but even still he ended up being isolated. So that theme of isolation is still like the most prominent part of Edward Scissorhands. But much like the original Frankenstein, Edward Scissorhands is kind of built, you know, he's kind of molded or modeled more from like clay or some sort of nebulous life source, which is kind of what Frankenstein was supposed to be, Frankenstein's monster. Guillermo del Toro's version I'm really excited for. Pan's Labyrinth is probably my favorite movie of all time. You know, I still remember the first time I watched it, I was in college, and it was on a channel at the time called FearNet, which my friend and I really liked actually, because it kind of had some gems that we always thought were hidden gems on there. And one day, Pan's Labyrinth was playing, and it was a weekend, and I sat down and watched it, and I could not believe how good it was. I was blown away. And ever since then, it's a hard movie to watch because it is really sad. But, man, if I don't think it's the best movie that I've seen. And, you know, Guillermo del Toro ended up winning Best Picture for, like, The Shape of Water, which I thought was an okay movie, but not as good as Pan's Labyrinth. But I feel like that was awarded to him, you know, largely to make up for Pan's Labyrinth not being awarded stuff like that at the time. And Guillermo del Toro's just done cool stuff. Like, even the Second Blade movie I really like. It has such cool creature design on the sort of expanding jaw design of the vampires. And so I'm really optimistic about this new Frankenstein. I have no reason not to be with Del Toro. I just think that at this point, whatever he does, even if I don't love it, I'll always respect it and enjoy it to an extent. I don't have such a huge connection to Frankenstein that I'm going to be upset if there's things deviated. Like, already in the trailer, you know, they're kind of going electricity route of creating a spark of life for Frankenstein's monster. And that's okay. You know, I realize that we like to have some more mechanical reasoning for how and why things happen. And yeah, based on what we know now about how to jumpstart hearts and bodies, you know, electricity does that pretty well. But, you know, at the time in which the book was written, that was not a thing in the 1800s. Well, at least the early 1800s. And so yeah, he was molded a lot more from clay. And kind of the nebulous spark of life and a sort of David story and Paradise Lost story. I don't know, I'm kind of thinking that this is the wrong angle here for this. It should maybe, from this perspective, it should come down more and be cutting off that. Yeah, I think this angle right here will be better, and you'll find when you're drawing that you make a lot of small corrections to things. Now it wouldn't really have much of a shadow there when you don't have the cartilage or soft tissue structure casting a shadow, but Still gonna set one there a little bit, and just to help create some shape. You know, Mary Shelley, much like a lot of people back then, Mary Shelley being the author, you know, she was also inspired by trying times in her life with the book, because already at that age she'd had the death of an infant. And so a lot of the book is probably a fair bit of dealing with the pain of losing a child, or being just the ability to be there for him. So it might have been, in a really sad way, kind of a look at the pain of not being able to, you know, be there for your kid. Probably something we take for granted nowadays. It's just how often medically challenged pregnancies work out, you know. Let's see. The fun part about drawing a contrasty drawing is how much of it you just let shadows take care of. Yeah, this looks so much like Swamp Thing to me right now. Which that show is actually pretty good. It no doubt didn't reach expectations, I'm sure, for DC, but I thought the effects in it were really good in the story. Alright, I'm gonna jump ahead, and the next time you see me I'll probably be further along on the drawing. Alright guys, welcome back. As you can see, I'm quite a bit further into the drawing. I'm giving them a lot of hair, which has been really hard actually, because I don't have a tremendous reference for long hair from this below angle, and I don't do hair all that much, so it feels a little sloppy and ill-conceived. But just trying to put some highlights in the right areas to give it some overall shape and sense of flow. I do like the idea. I think Frankenstein's monster actually looks pretty cool with the long hair as described in the book. I gotta kind of fill in over here, this area by the temple. I had the hair come up to just this markings I had made here, but I didn't think that worked so well. So I'm going to keep filling in this area until it looks a little more like the temple of the forehead. And I do want some contrast there. I don't need this area to have a whole lot of attention on it, but it needs to look decent. I'm at the point where I'm kind of just wanting to be done with the drawing. Been working on it now for like, I don't know, 6, 7, 8 hours. Yeah. A lot of it just being uncertain of where to go. So it's felt really unproductive as I guess my way through hair details and things like that. But it was fun adding lots of details. You know, I've added a lot of detail down here in the neck, and maybe I'll try and I just keep trying to get more precise with things, so it ends up taking a lot longer. So like if I that was a bummer, that was a black charcoal pencil that fell, which means the tip broke. Alright, but I was just turning the camera back on to tell you guys I think that's going to do it for now on this video. Thanks for watching. Check the description if you want to check out my website and see what other drawings I've done. Next video I'm thinking maybe I might draw like a character from Deadlock. I've been playing that a lot lately. I've also been playing Chronos New Dawn, which has been really good. I have really liked it. I'm trying to take my time with it and not rush through it. I had a real crisis. I wanted to play some Chronos right now, but it was either that or turn back on the camera here at 8 p.m. and film the outro so that I can get the video up, and that's what I'm doing. So yeah, thanks for watching. Let me know what you guys think of the drawing or what I should draw next. I hope you're excited for the Frankenstein movie coming out. I know I am. I think it's just going to be on Netflix. It seems like Guillermo del Toro has some sort of affiliation with Netflix right now, since he has Cabinet of Curiosities on there, and the Pinocchio movie, and now Frankenstein. So, alright, thanks for watching. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.